Hey guys, Rhonda here, RK3 Designs, and I am really excited to bring you a customer-inspired video. She reached out to us and is redoing her house, and one of her bathrooms is actually being geared around the color in the tile that's going to be on her floor and in her shower. So she's got a lot going on with this tile. So she wanted something that wasn't going to be super busy, a little subtle, and more of a marble type finish is what she kind of came to me and what she wanted. So I did a sample board and she really liked it. So this is the actual countertop that I'm pouring today. And I'm going to incorporate her backsplashes. So what I've done is we've pre-measured and pre-cut the backsplashes, and I've laid them down next to the piece where they're gonna fall. And what I'm gonna do is when I pour this piece, I'm gonna incorporate these backsplashes as if they're part of the piece. And then when they dry, I'll pull them apart, they'll dry. Then when we're ready to install, we'll just pull them up, we'll install them, and then that way our pattern will flow very cohesively right up the side of the backsplash. So it makes us look like rock stars because we matched it all. So you know the secret now. All right, so we're gonna get started. I've mixed up Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. I mixed it with at 3 ounces per square foot. And I've mixed some white base tint from Alumilite. I love their new base tint that Stone Coat carries. It's very opaque. You don't need to use a lot to get the opaqueness, and it's very, very good for non-yellowing, non-ambering. So I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to use my hand to get this product on the backsplashes. It's just so much easier since these backsplashes are having to sit on my makeshift paint cans to get them the same level. So I'm just going to use my hands and get those out. You want to make sure your surface is level so that you don't have your pattern run off as it sets up, because that's the worst thing in the world is when you have a beautiful pattern that you've worked on and perfected and you come out the next morning and because your surface wasn't level, all of your beautiful pattern is now on your table. Now I could come in with a trowel and trowel this on, but I really like using my hands. Now, I have prepped this piece with bare paint and primer in one. The color is natural gray. And the reason I didn't do a stark white is because as I start adding colors and as the epoxy rolls over these edges, because that's where my epoxy is going to be the very thinnest, I really don't want stark white edges to show through my finish. So the fact that I've toned it down by using natural gray, you really won't see those edges. All right, so I've got myself a really nice palette to start with. Make sure all my edges, that I don't have any surface tension on my edges. I've really addressed my edges really well. So I'm going to torch it out. Then I'm going to come back, and if I have any little foreign objects, I can address those. All right, so now I've got myself a really good clean palette to start my finish with. I've got 2 colors of mica powder. One is Blue Earth and one is by Color Obsessions, and I believe it's Slate Blue. I'll make sure that I put the correct color in the comments. I want just a very subtle background of this color. So I'm just gonna come out here and I'm literally just randomly putting down some color. I don't wanna overdo it. Now I'm coming back in here with the other color. There's just enough difference in the color to give just a little bit of contrast. And like I said, this is only gonna be background noise. You won't see it, and I'll probably end up adding a little more later on. All right, so take my chop brush. I'm going to pre-prime it since it's a brand new dry brush. I don't want to just put my brush in to my product, because a dry brush, if I go straight in with a dry brush, it's going to pull all that product off instead of letting it just go out there and meld and chop everything together. So now, as I chop, I'm only going to chop enough to break up those lines. I really am not trying to mix it. I'm just trying to break up the line just a bit. Okay, so you can see I'm really not chopping and blending this together. I'm really just breaking up that hard line. And I've actually done counters where I stop right here, let this all move, and this makes a very subtle marble. So I'm gonna let that sit about, oh, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna come back and start adding some spray paint. So we're back. I've let it sit 5 minutes or so, just to kind of see how my pattern is starting to move. Now I'm gonna come back in and start adding some colors with my spray paint. The first one I'm gonna come in with is a winter gray. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna spray it on my brush. And then I'm just gonna come in here and start laying down some color. I'm not really worried about mixing these colors right now. I'm just trying to develop a pattern. And you can see I'm working that up into my backsplash. I do want to leave white area showing because I'm trying to lighten this bathroom up a little bit. It's going to be a little dark with the tile that they're using, and it's a very small bathroom. So I still want that white to be an element in the design. So like I said, I'm just trying to decide where my pattern is going to be. All right, so now I'm going to come in with a little darker color. I'm going to come in with a smoke gray. Not going to clean my brush, none of that. Got that color on there? And now I'm just going to bring in that color. And you have to remember, you cannot judge this yet. Give it time. Let all these colors start coming together. Now I really want to address my edges as well. So I take a lot of the product and I hit the side, and that is going to eventually go over the side very organically. I'm going to heat it with a heat gun just a little bit, and I'll show you guys how it runs over the side and creates some really pretty designs on your sides. Yeah, I like that. All right, so that's looking good. I'm going to come in now with a stone gray. I love a stone gray when I'm trying to bring grays and browns together in the same design, because it's a very neutral color and it plays really well with your browns and it plays really well with your grays. one of my very favorite go-to colors. I'm not a big fan of blues and grays. Turquoise, yes. Blues, not so much. But as a creator, I have to really get out of my comfort zone a lot of times and work with the parameters that my customers are giving me. In this case, it's the colors that are in that tile. Not necessarily the colors I would pick for my home, but it's what's in her home, so I'm learning to get really creative and add all these colors and come up with something fun. I'm gonna go ahead and torch a little bit. As I'm chopping, I'm bringing up those bubbles, so I just want to torch. All right, so now I'm gonna come in. I've laid down a really cool pattern, but I've got really hard edges as I chop my brush. So now I'm gonna come in and actually marble all of that and get it to get really soft. I let this heat gun act as a paintbrush. If I have any really dark areas, I can break up that darkness with just hitting it with the heat gun and spreading it out a little bit. Okay, so one thing you really have to be careful with when you're trying to get a marble look and you're using your heat gun a lot is to know when to let your epoxy cool. Right now, my epoxy's pretty hot because I've really used the heat gun quite a bit. My epoxy's getting very fluid and it's really wanting to run a lot. So I want to pull back a little bit, give it time to cool off a little so that it's not so fluid, and my pattern is going to stay. If I continually heat it and heat it and heat it, it's going to cause my pattern to move to any pattern, whether it be a chop, whether it be a vein. Anytime you add heat or you tilt it, you're going to soften that pattern. So I've got my pattern about where I want it. I don't want it any softer at this point. So I'm going to step back, give it a few minutes to cool off, and then proceed. Okay, so a lot of times what I'll do is as my epoxy drips off the edge, I'll want to bring back some epoxy on the edge for my, I guess just the visual look of it. So I'll take my stick and I'll take all of this epoxy and I'll come in here and pour it on the edge. And then I'll let it play and I'll worry about it later. Right now I'm just trying to get a little bit more epoxy on those edges. Okay, so I've let my epoxy cool down just a little bit and I'm going to come back and continue to add some colors. I really like where my blues and grays are, so now I'm going to start coming in with a little bit of the brown dark taupe. And again, I haven't cleaned my brush. I'm still with the same color. Get that edge. And if you want to get it a little bolder, you can squirt it directly on the finish and then chop it in. If you've got a big area that you're doing, like a big vanity, a lot of times that would be a lot easier. Just kind of spray. Then you can work in your design. And it's very important to step back on your design and get a visual of what the person walking into the bathroom is going to see. Most of the time when you walk in, the first thing you see is your edges. So I want to step back. I want to look and see color-wise, am I where I want to be? Do I want to add something here, add something there? And that's the best way to do it, is when you're stepping back. I'm going to add a little bit more. I've got some epoxy left. I want to add that here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to soften things up just a little bit. Okay, so I'm liking how this is melding together, but now I want to come back in with a little bit more interest. So I'm coming back with my blue earth, and I'm just going to add some fun little veins, a little more interest. Now that I have some color patches, I kind of know if I want to kind of go either around those color patches, if I want to break up that color patch. I'm just going to break that up a little bit. If your brush starts to get a little muddy because you've got so many colors in it, just take your brush, clean out the product, and now you've got yourself a clean brush. I really like how this is coming out, so I'm gonna let it sit another probably this time maybe 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes, depending on, you know, my room temperature is about probably 72, 73, so it's not gonna cure really fast. But what I'll do is I'll come and check my drips underneath, and when my drips start to get stringy, that's where I wanna come back. Right now it's very, very, very fluid, so I know I've got about 10 or 15 minutes to wait. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I got a little busy doing other things in the studio, and I've actually waited an hour and a half to come back and add my veins, which is great because I always have a tendency to get here too early. So I'm really liking the fact that I got sidetracked like when I cook, and I came back and started working on this. So it's exactly where I want it to be. My temperature in here is 74 degrees, so it's not super hot, so it's not setting up really, really fast, but it's exactly where I want it to be. I'm gonna touch my underneath on my drips, and this is about where I'm at now. You can see I'm kind of sticky, not too bad. So I still have plenty of working time. So now what I wanna do, I want to bring in some very small veins. I am going to manipulate them just a little bit, but I want them to stay where they're at. I don't want them to move a lot, and that's why waiting and letting the epoxy kind of gel up a little bit is really beneficial. So I'm going to come in here with the stick. I have a little bit of my mica powder. This is the earth blue. I'm going to put a little on my stick, not a lot, just a little bit. And then I'm going to start doing some fun patterns. And this is where you get creative and decide where you want these patterns to be. Now, as I move my stick around, I'm twisting and turning my stick so that it gives me different patterns. So I've added a little bit of charcoal gray now to my stick. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to start off my board and then just go very randomly. And like I said, there's no rhyme to reason to this. I'm going to go carry it up on my backsplash. I'm just having fun with it. And you can see I'm really not adding a lot of paint. Every so often I'll come back and add paint when I see I'm really not adding any color. Okay, this one I'm going to come up here. And I'm just going to come down a little bit and go back up. Now, I am going to be cutting out a sink here. So I know going into this that most of the pattern that's going to be in the middle of this is going to be covered up with sink. So a really good thing to do is if you've never done this before, start in the middle, because that way you know you're going to cut this out. And that way you can kind of practice getting how you want to lay your veins down. And then you can see if you like that color you're using. You can see if your epoxy's, you know, really set up enough. Now, when you get to an edge where you've got a big area where a lot of my paint was on the stick, I'll take my heat gun. I'll soften them. Some veins are very distinct. Some veins, I'll actually move them so much that they're very tiny and they kind of disappear. I think I'm gonna take this vein here and I'm gonna make it almost disappear. So I'm coming right over the top of it and really spreading it out. I really like that look because I'm gonna come back with some white. Oh yeah, I really like that. And the reason I'm continually moving my heat gun one way and then the other way is because I want it to be very organic. I want that vein to be very natural looking. Also, the colors underneath, I want to make sure they really stay marbled. Okay, another reason I went with this design of having veins that are actually curving is because this whole bathroom is very linear. The pattern that was in the tile, everything is striated. So I wanted to break up all those hard lines with some soft curves. That's why I decided to go with, one, a marble, because it's soft. Two, I wanted to go with the veins that curve and break up those hard lines. So that's why I brought in the curly type veins. I'm gonna let this sit for just a second. My epoxy is very warm, so I wanna let it cool off just a little bit, and then I'm gonna add some different veins. Okay, so I'll let my epoxy cool just a little bit, and I'm gonna come back now and add just a few more of the veins with my mica powder, and this is the blue steel. And I just wanna touch, not a lot, and there's some areas that I don't wanna touch at all because I really like them, but then I have some areas I really wanna bring in some more. So I'm gonna bring in a little bit more vein with some color. I am going to come back and add just a little bit more of this charcoal vein. Soften it up real quick. It's a trick I've learned so that I don't let my cord go over the top of my project. Oh, now I really like this. It's very subtle, almost like you really can't see it much. I just needed something in that corner. Okay, yeah, I really like that. All right, so now I'm gonna come in with white. Now, I'm gonna give you a disclaimer on your white. You can so easily go overboard with white and it will take over a piece. So be very, very, very careful. You can always add more. You can't ever take white away. So I'm actually gonna put it on here. I'm not even gonna spray it on my stick. I sprayed it on the table, and I'm just gonna dab my stick, and then I'm gonna almost wipe some of that off because I wanna see first how much I have on my stick. So now I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna add a little bit of white. Oh, that's good. I just want a hint of white. Now, some areas I may want a little more white. Let me see, right here. It looks like I have a lot of color here, and I believe that this area could take a little bit more white. Now, you'll notice if I come in straight into the middle and I don't start off the edge and I have color, as I come in, I want to start moving my stick before I ever touch the epoxy. So I don't want to just put my epoxy stick here because I have a little bit of a drip. So what I want to do is I want to start moving my spot, moving my stick, and then touch so that I don't get a big blob. That's just enough white that I wanted in there. Okay, I think I'm liking it. I think I want to bring a little bit more white right here. And I want to make that white a little more distinct. So I'm going to add a little bit more to that white. So I have a little more on my stick now. So I'm going to come in here and you'll see, I'll just kind of run it out. But you can see that piece right there is a little more white, and I'm going to really spread that out. Oh yeah, I like that. There. Okay. I think I'm done. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to let this sit up a little bit. It will continue to move a little bit, but because I've let my epoxy sit for an hour and a half, my veins shouldn't move a whole lot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for future notifications, and leave some comments. Maybe where would you have stopped? Maybe what would you like to have seen me done to this piece? Maybe other colors, more veins, less veins. I love your feedback. Okay guys, thanks for watching, and remember, don't be scared, move forward, and be creative. See you in the next video.